Yarg, mateys! Time to set sail for some treasure, because today we are reviewing Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure was released August 2015. A new branch line is being built on the island of Sodor, and at the same time, Thomas's arrogance is causing trouble. All while this is going on, a lost treasure is being searched for, and it's up to Thomas to try to get everything ready in time for the branch line's opening. When I think about Lost Treasure, I think about two big things. And I remember when the trailer for this movie was released. There were two movies I remember when the trailers were released. We'll talk about the other one someday, but this one is... I remember, I think I was on Twitter, and I just happened to see, like, people were posting screenshots. It was like, oh my god, Mike Rex and Bert are in the show. I'm like, oh, that's some nice Photoshop, that's cool. And then I was like, wait, why does everyone posting, like, the same, whoa, hold on, there's a trailer. And then I, like, managed to watch Lost Treasure's trailer, and yeah, I was shocked, and I loved it. It was, like, amazing to see this movie getting made, and all these characters coming back, and all this stuff happening. It looks so cool. And the other thing I remember is, you know, at this point I feel old, it was over a decade ago, but a bunch of us got together on Skype, and we watched it in a Skype call. It was really funny, because we had to basically, because it wasn't on YouTube yet, so we had to basically, we couldn't just share from iTunes, so we had to basically film it with a camera, and then watch the camera rip that way. So it was very funny, but it's kind of ghetto, but it was also kind of cool. It's just one of those moments that all of us were just kind of vibing, and we're just wondering, you know, where the specials would go next. But enough wasting time, let's talk about how good this movie is. And the biggest thing that I love about Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure is it's a cinematic special. And it's arguably the most cinematic Thomas special. I would even argue over Magic Railroad, because at least this one actually focuses on Thomas and his friends. If you told me I could pick any special I wanted to out of the show to be made in 2000 to be the big featured movie, I would pick Lost Treasure, and I don't think it would really be close, in my opinion. I think it's the perfect special to introduce people to the world, while also having some fun elements, some big cinema, some action, a lot of things that I think people really like about the show. It's got a grandiose story. You know, it's a bigger story, it's about a new branch line, we're seeing new areas of the island, it's a story about Thomas, we'll talk about him in a sec. The action, there's just constant action, there's a lot of accidents and crashes in this movie, there's some chase sequences, and there's intensity, so there's a lot going on in this special. The animation is beautiful. I really like there's some beautiful shots in the mornings and night, and it's just cinematography is great. We even get a nice animatic again during the Captain Callus backstory, so there's just a lot to love about this movie, just in an overview picture. But you cannot talk about this movie without talking about Thomas. And in my opinion, this probably is, if not definitely is, his best role in a special. I love what they did with Thomas in this movie. It's a very unique take on his character, honestly, because for CGI Thomas, he's mostly happy-go-lucky. We don't really get a Thomas this arrogant and callous very often. In reality, it's more like his Season 2 personality, but I really do like this movie, and I'll explain why later with my final good point, so I don't want to spoil it here. But I really do like what they do with Thomas in this special, and I really love the journey they put him on. And I love that it emphasizes the things that he cares a lot about. It emphasizes his branch line, that being taken away from him. His coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, those being taken away from them. His number is gone for most of the movie. It's covered up under grime from all the things that we see him go through. And again, it's a very sassy, kind of arrogant, you know, I would almost describe it as like Hollywood Thomas. And I honestly wonder if it's meta at this point. This is a Thomas that has been there, done that, and feels like it's above it all, and now he kind of has to humble himself. It's a very nice Paradise Lost story, what they do with him, and I really, really love his role in this special. And I would consider this special celebratory. It celebrates the franchise in a lot of different ways. I mean, the fact that the branch line's being built to Harwick is something that comes out of the Railway series. Harwick is a real place in the Railway series. that the railway was originally going to run to, but at the end of World War I, it didn't. So instead, they just terminated the line in Alsborough, and now they're connecting it. And I thought that was a really cool thing for the TV series to do, and now apparently in the railway series canon, that happened too. Which, it's kind of funny, because the TV series exists in the railway series canon, so it's very likely that the TV series special, Lost Treasure, aired in the railway series before the Harwick branch line plans happened and were developed, which is kind of funny. But anyway, that's what happens when history keeps on moving on. But I also love that we got returnees in the special, and while they don't play a huge role here, gives them an opportunity to appear throughout the rest of the CGI era. We get Donald and Douglas back in this special. We get Daisy in this special at the very, very end as a fun cameo, which I think was supposed to be a surprise, but that got spoiled. We bring back a bunch of the pack, and Alfie, Oliver, who's relevant to a plot, Max and Monty, and you cannot think about Lost Treasure without the introductees. And I don't mean the newbies, the new characters. I mean the characters for the first time in years being introduced from the railway series to the TV series. And you have the Reverend Audrey, who makes a few cameos throughout the special, especially at the beginning, and Mike, Rex, and Bert. I love what they do with them in the special. They provide some nice comedy. They're relevant they're relevant in both Thomas's plot and Marion's plot, and they have some nice fun scenes at Alsborough West. Great banter, and knowing what comes next with the three of them now, I mean, we should have been even more excited when they were introduced and announced. And speaking of being excited, this score gets me excited. It is a beautiful score. I think it's the best score of any Thomas film, and it's different than normal. I mean, they really stepped it up. This was the 70th anniversary. They really stepped it up here. And we get an actual orchestra, which I don't believe they've done since Magic Railroad. So, obviously the normal, composers, Robert and Peter Hartshorn, put together the score, but then it was actually performed by the City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra, and it is just beautiful. It just it adds to that cinematic quality of the special. Like, the special just feels like more than their average special, because again, it was the 70th anniversary, and they really wanted to punch it up, and they did a really good job at doing so. So, a lot of praise for the score and the songs. I will be totally honest. We Make a Team Together is my favorite CGI song, and when Lost Treasure first came out, I kid you not, I probably watched that song on repeat multiple times during the week, just watching the music video over and over and over again. And I like that it plays twice, and I kind of like what they did with it, because in the middle of the movie, we get it as a softer, calmer version as Thomas and Sailor John and Skiff look for the treasure. And then at the end, we get the more excited version. It kind of makes me wonder if maybe that's what they could have done in Tale of the Brave with Our Tale of the Brave versus Let's Be Brave at the end. But it's just such a banger. It's a great song. And Never Overlook a Little Engine's really good too. I really like that song, and it's kind of a milestone because it's one of, if not, I think it is the first time that the engines themselves sing a song. And it's not like the trucks singing like Pop Goes the Diesel. Like, they're actually performing a song. Is the music video a little weird? Yeah, and I don't want to critique it for that, because it's all fantastical elements that are within the music video. It's got some interesting visuals. But the song itself is really cool. And I like that it's Mike, Rex, and Bert who get to sing it. Like, who would have thought that they'd be the first characters to sing a song in the franchise? So we've talked about the returnees. We talked about the introductees. Let's talk about the newbies. Sailor John, we gotta start with you. Probably the most unhinged Thomas villain. You can argue Diesel 10, but Sailor John was willing to throw a stick of dynamite at Thomas. He was ready to kill for that treasure. He blew up part of Knapford Station. It's really undersold in the movie, which I guess I kind of get why, because it's a little violent, but this man had a death wish. He wanted that treasure under any circumstances. And I really love his personality. It's a really interesting take, too, on a Thomas villain, because he's fairly abusive. And it's his relationship with Skip, it's a pretty abusive relationship, both emotionally by the way he talks to him, very verbally abusive, but he's also pretty physically abusive with Skip, hitting him, stomping on him, threatening to force his head in the water. It's pretty much bullying Skip the entire time. And I really like the duo they form. And let's talk about Skiff while we're here. Skiff's great. I like what they do with him in this movie. He's a really nice kind of lighter yin to Sailor John's yang throughout the film. He's a nice, fun, bubbly character, super innocent. And you do feel bad for him that he kind of is caught in the middle of all of this and he lacks agency, given that he is a sailboat. And he's basically at the mercy of his sailor, Sailor John, and the wind. And at points Thomas in this movie. But yeah, he's a fun character. I love what they do with him here. And obviously you have Ryan. And I like Ryan, and I'll have more thoughts on Ryan later. I like what he is in the show. I'm happy that he gets introduced in this movie, but it's harder for me to talk about my thoughts on Ryan in this section, so I'll explain a little bit more later. Speaking of CGI characters I love what this special does with Marion. She's one of my favorite CGI characters. She's really interesting because she's kind of like a binder in the story where she's kind of going on her own little adventure and her own little subplot, but it kind of connects back to varying things throughout the movie. She ends up connected to the treasure because she's the one who finds it. She is loosely connected with Thomas's story that way. She's connected with, the whole Oliver and Oliver mix-up, magic engines, small railway. So she kind of just binds all these random elements of the movie together, and she's really, really funny throughout. The Fat Controller is, again, similar to Thomas, a very interesting take on him, and I've seen people divided on the Fat Controller in this movie. I personally think he was characterized fine. My problem is I have an issue with how he's characterized pretty much from season 19 onwards in the show, where he's less like an authoritative figure and more of just kind of like this funny human where we're all kind of meant to laugh at him. In this special, he's not playing any games, and I really like that he is fairly strict in this special. And you can kind of tell that he's at the end of this rope. Now, if you're someone that, looks at Lost Treasure as taking place either during or after Season 19, a theme throughout Season 19 is pretty much how done the Fat Controller is with Thomas's shit. It starts off in episodes like Who's Jeffrey, and it just escalates and escalates and escalates, and then you get, like, Goodbye Fat Controller at the end of the season, where it brings up, Thomas does get in trouble with the Fat Controller, and this feels like the natural escalation of that story to this point. And it's basically a boy who cried wolf plot with him, where first time Thomas causes an accident, he's very angry with Thomas, and Thomas tries to lie about it, and Fat Controller doesn't want to believe his BS. Then later on, he causes another accident. Thomas lies about it. Fat Controller doesn't want to believe his BS. Third time, Thomas isn't really fully at fault for the dynamite situation, and the Fat Controller still blames him without hearing him out. Why? Because Thomas has not given him a reason to believe him in the movie. Is it overly harsh? Yeah, but I think it fits the movie because Thomas himself was also being harsher in this movie. He was lying directly to the Fat Controller, and I think it warranted that kind of response. The unique cast of this movie I really like. It was really fun seeing more of the Little Western guys. They don't get a lot to do in this movie. They're not hugely plot relevant, but they're mostly just there. But on the contrast, I also really like that it doesn't involve a lot of the Steam Team. A little bit more so in the first act of the movie, but once the movie really gets going, most of them don't do anything in the movie, except for one, and we'll talk about him. But for the most part, it creates a more intimate Thomas story, where he's more isolated, where he truly feels like he has lost everything, even if he technically hasn't. And it really kind of earns that moment and opportunity for Thomas to gain that all back. So, yeah, I really like what they did with the movie's cast here. I know some people don't love that the Steam Team isn't in this special, given it's the 70th anniversary, but they get some fun scenes early on, and they get some nice banter here and there. But for the most part, this is Thomas's story. We really need to focus a lot on him. And the last thing I really liked about this movie is it feels like a natural sequel to The Adventure Begins. And most specials really don't necessarily act as sequels. And in a lot of ways, it does feel like a sequel to The Adventure Begins. Because The Adventure Begins is about how Thomas got his status, how he got his number, how he got his branch line, how he got his coaches, how he got in the Fat Controller's good graces, how he got his friends. And in this special, it's more about why Thomas kept them. Because he loses them, but he regains them back. But it's like, why is he worthy of this still all this time later? And I really like that storytelling. So let's get into the things that I didn't like in this movie. So the first thing I didn't like was Henry. And it's pretty obvious why I don't like Henry. I don't like the use of his character being this scared, worried guy. It's mostly just a joke, and it doesn't really add all that much to the movie. It's just kind of like... I compare it to like a gnat in your ear when you're just chilling in your room, and there's like a little gnat buzzing around. You can't quite find it, and it's just making that sound in your ear, and it's really annoying. That's kind of what Henry is in this movie. He just runs around screaming, scared, and that's it. It adds nothing. It's not really funny to me. It's just kind of annoying. It doesn't add up to anything. It doesn't have like a payoff that I'm like, that was worth it. Like, he gets a moment in the climax to contribute. He mostly just sets it off, if anything. So, while I don't think Ryan is bad, per se, the problem with Ryan in this movie is that I really want him to be more active in the plot. We're supposed to believe that Ryan is a threat to Thomas in this movie, and Thomas sees him that way, surely, and some of that is because of Thomas's psyche, because he's easily made jealous, but we don't get a good reason why Thomas is jealous. He just kinda is. And the special never really justifies, you know, why Ryan is a threat to Thomas. He's just kind of there. And I don't know. I like Ryan a lot. I like what they do with him in the show. And I've always said that I don't mind when characters in specials don't have the biggest roles. But because Ryan is supposed to be a big part of Thomas's development, but he really isn't, he's just kind of there, it kind of leaves the movie lacking that little extra flavor. I do wish Lost Treasure was a little bit longer, if it maybe got the JBS treatment of getting an extra 10 minutes. Because I'm sure that extra 10 minutes would maybe have had more Ryan stuff in it and made him feel more relevant to the plot. Or maybe they could have even gone with his OG personality, where Ryan was a lot more arrogant. But, you know, I can't really think of a reason why that a character who has a namesake of somebody in the fandom, which his original personality would have been known as being arrogant and kind of a prick, would get that changed. I have no fundamental idea why that would happen. The last thing I want to talk about is not like a huge problem in this special, but it's gonna become a problem in future specials, and that's animation errors. Now, I complimented the animation, and it's really, really good. And animation errors have happened throughout the show, and errors have happened throughout every era of the show. There's always been mistakes. My problem in this special is that there are some really bad ones that are really noticeable. I'll give two big examples. You have the scene early on in the movie. This is the beginning of the movie. Thomas is racing Birdie, and he almost runs into Toby, and you see Toby very clearly pulling Henrietta, and in the very next shot, no Henrietta. It's just Toby. And it's like, come on, people, check your work afterwards. And look, we all make mistakes. No one's perfect, but it's like, you can't be making blatant mistakes with a bigger budget movie. And I have a theory as to why this started happening. And it's interesting that it kind of starts here. During the We Make a Team Together song, you see there's like the shots of all the engines working around the island. Salty is like merged inside of a truck. And this is a problem that kind of starts to show up in the next couple specials, and even in this season. It's just all these blatant mistakes. And you could tell that at this point, the show was really trying to rush to put out content. Mind you, in 2015 alone, they had to put out 2 specials. They had to put out season 19, which included a special episode. So that's a lot more work than they're used to doing. And yeah, there was a time crunch. And then that time crunch, they probably made some more mistakes that they let slip by. And that's a little upsetting, given that, again, I look at the special, and it's like, there's so many great things about it. And it's like, you have those blatant mistakes. Like, before, there were things here and there, and there's been mistakes throughout the entire CGI era. But, again, it just comes off as very sloppy and just rushed when you have these kind of mistakes in movies that are becoming noticeable. A lot of the times, when I look at the goof section on, like, the wiki, I don't necessarily see, like, the stuff that people bring up aren't necessarily inherently obvious. And there's a difference when it's like model series and it's like, hey, we shot everything once, we can't really go back and refix that, or anything like that, where you have like characters' faces falling off or damage being visible. In CGI, like, this shouldn't be happening. So that's stuff that they have to clearly refine their craft at. So the verdict? This is my favorite special of the show. Is it the tightest written? Is it the most perfect special? No. But it's my favorite. It's the one I enjoy watching the most. I think it has, in my opinion, the best story overall. There's just a lot of fun experimental additions that they did with this special. It's just, I simply just enjoy this one the most out of all of the Thomas specials. It is my favorite. It's very commonly cited as a fan favorite. I understand why it may not be everyone's favorite, but this one is personally mine. So let's talk about the ways I would improve it. So, one thing is just remove Henry, because it doesn't add anything to the movie, but the bigger thing I would want to talk about is just Ryan. And just have him be more active in Thomas's plot. You could do it one of two ways. I think having Ryan in his OG personality, but kind of more like Diesel from like season 2, where we first meet him and he seems like he's really nice, and then you kind of get to know him better, and then you realize he is kind of arrogant. I think that would have been a fun juxtaposition to Thomas. But also, making Ryan the Boy Scout, happy-go-lucky character that he is already works too in juxtaposition to Thomas. Because I think Thomas could really compare himself with Ryan, especially knowing that Ryan was a lot like he was when he first came to the railway, and I think that would have been a really nice connection back to The Adventure Begins that would have made Ryan's character feel more earned in this movie. Anyways, this has been Train King James. Hope you guys enjoyed this conversation on Lost Treasure, because we're not quite done with this movie yet. That's right, I'm going to be doing another video extremely soon where I'm going to compare Lost Treasure to The Great Discovery, two specials that often get compared, and I'm going to explain why I don't think they are the same movie. So with that, this is Train King James, signing off.